Center for Creative Technologies embodies the innovation and entrepreneurship I experienced throughout my visit to Armenia. A free after-school learning program that serves 14,000 teens, TUMO was founded in Armenia in 2011 by Inet Technologies co-founder Sam Simonian and his wife Sylva. TUMO offers self-learning activities, workshops, and project labs in 14 disciplines that include animation, game development, filmmaking, web design, music, writing, and robotics, among other areas. Teens combine these into personal learning paths that adapt to their evolving preferences and rate of progress. Lou Papazion is TUMO's founding CEO. She developed the center's educational program and led the design and construction of its flagship facility. Prior to TUMO, Lou led the Education for Development Foundation, linking Armenian students to their global peers through online educational activities. Previously, she was lead construction manager on prominent high-rise buildings in New York City. Lou holds a master's degree in computing and education from the Teachers College at Columbia University, as well as degrees in engineering and construction management. This conversation with Lou offers insight into Armenian culture of today, as well as the backstory to an intriguing educational approach that has implications for all of us in terms of how we see the world.
Everything started from my engineering background. My grandfather was from Urfa, and my father grew up in an Urfatsi home, which means, women do not have the same rights as men. So every time I used to ask my father about my career, my education, it was, it's not important, you're a woman, go and do whatever you want, whatever you think. We don't care, it's not important. And my brothers left for the US while I wanted to do landscape engineering or landscape architecture. And back in Beirut, we didn't have that career or that kind of studies, and now AUB has it. So when I asked my father, I was the second one, when I asked my father if I can go and study landscape architecture, he said, no, you're a woman, you cannot go at age 18 to the US. Well, my brother did. And he didn't really pay attention of what I wanted. So he said, do whatever you want, but you cannot travel. You cannot live by yourself. At the same time, my husband, Pedro, was a classmate of mine, and we went to school together. And his family was exactly the opposite. They were very open, very into education and everything, and that was very attractive for me. And I learned a lot from them. So, and his father, my husband's father, was a structural engineer, so that listening to his conversations and listening to what he used to do was very attractive for me. And my husband did his architecture studies, and when it came time where we were going to decide what we were going to do and we were together, we were trying not to complement each other but to coordinate together, I guess. And I liked the whole idea of engineering and construction more than anything. In Lebanon it was, if you are into science and engineering, it's more for men, and it's more, you're more respected. And if you are a woman, you go and do, for example, journalism, teaching, anything like that. So for me it was clear that I wanted to prove to my father that I can do what my brothers could do, and that I do not want to depend on anybody. I want to make my own decisions, and my only choice was engineering, actually. There were very little choices in Lebanon back then. I'm talking about 35 years ago or more. So I did my studies in engineering, which I liked a lot because I like planning, I like organizing, I like coordinating, I like all that. But also at the same time, from my husband's side, they're all also into education and teaching. His father was a very good structural engineer, and he was a teacher at AUB at the same time. And we always, between Pego and I, we always spoke about, what's missing in Lebanon, what we would have liked to have as far as education and teachers, and what is the ideal teaching approach. We moved to Barcelona, and that's when I started not working. Before that, I worked in New York in a construction company, and I was very lucky to have a very interesting position for someone who had no experience at all. I was working on a high-rise building in Manhattan, and that gave me a lot of exposure, and that even, highlighted or made me like construction even more than I used to like it back in Lebanon, where I had no experience. When we moved to Barcelona and our kids were born and I stopped working, suddenly there was a big change in my life, from being on the site and working and did my master's in New York to becoming a housewife with 3 kids and not being able to even do anything. So it bothered me a lot. I felt like I was going backward and stopped evolving or developing. But I was very lucky because it was right when the internet started being available. It was year 90, we're talking about 94, 95. It was when you will first see the first sites and get information even from home. So that was ideal for me. And it happened that I went to the kindergarten of our oldest son to one of the parents' meeting. The parents' committee had organized a meeting with scientists and educators showing how you can use the internet and how you can use technology in education. And it was a very interesting group of people going through the Silk Road, traveling. This was 95. Traveling and following the Silk Road and communicating with schools in the US and with satellite dishes and equipment, and answering the questions that the students had about their trip and their travel logs and everything. So I came back, I remember I came back telling Pegor, I found it, I knew what I want to do. This is amazing to be able to communicate like this through technology and to have answers for people who otherwise would not be able to communicate or understand something. This could be an ideal setting for Armenian schools in the diaspora, connecting them to Armenian school in Armenia. And back then I had never visited Armenia before. So I said this would be the link between Armenia, which is unknown for us, and the diaspora Armenian schools. And even create a network of schools in the diaspora so that we understand each other. And that's how I started working on a project that him and myself started building together. And we did that project for 3-4 years. We loved the idea of how his background, even though it's architecture, he went to MIT and did computer science. So he had all the knowledge of what technology can do. And my background was just the passion for how can we link these things together and how can it be useful to the Armenian schools, and how can we understand the culture and Armenia, which was really unknown for us. And I did my first trip to Armenia in '97. I contacted several schools, and in '97 or '96, 2 schools only from Armenia replied saying this is very interesting. And I came and I got to know them, and that was the beginning of our adventure to Armenia and the beginning of our adventure in education. And that's how everything started. I told you that we lived in Spain, and I also told you that my husband was architect. And we, of course, when he went to a university in Boston, MIT, we were exposed to the best of the best in everything, in thinking, in planning, in architecture, in making sense of things. So when this project started shaping up, starting from the first project that was virtual and connecting schools, we always thought about it as, even though it's virtual, but it's a space. And then we moved to Armenia, and we didn't have this project yet. So we moved to Armenia in the middle of the year. It was February, and we brought all our 5 kids with us. And the first thing that we realized was, us who had traveled and lived in so many countries and were exposed to so many very interesting things, suddenly we have our kids here and we're very limited. And were we making a big mistake of bringing them to Armenia and not giving them the same opportunity as we did. So one day we were in the city, and we saw there was a round building in the city center, and we both said, wow, it would have been amazing to convert this to a center where instead of the virtual space that we were building during our past project, it would be a real space where you have exposure to everything, and we can complement it with things that we think our kids are missing, which is the example for other kids also. Other kids, of course, are missing all that too. So it was a pure coincidence that we received an email from the founder, Sam, telling us, I came across your past project and I really loved it, and I would like to meet with you. So I would like to talk to you. So we Skyped or did a video conference. I don't remember if it was a Skype back then. And he told us to come and visit the building. So when we came to the building, The building was under construction, the roof was not done, it was only concrete, but it was, you see it, it's huge. We were like amazed. Wow, we were talking about that 2 days ago, thinking about the space, and this is much more than what we imagined. And Sam was asking us about what can we do there. We right away answered him to give us some time to think about it. So we wrote a story about who will use the space and how they will use it for young people. And that was a document we created together, imagining and using all our experience in the past, but now imagining in a physical space. And then when he liked it a lot, and we decided that we were going to make it happen, he saw my resume and he saw that I used to be construction manager, and he said, can you help me with the construction until we get to the point where we'll have the educational part running? I told him, yes, what do you expect me to do? He said, go meet with the people there and start reporting on what's happening, and we'll take it from there. So when I came here, I realized that there was an architect for the building, entire building, but not for the space itself that we were imagining. And because Pegor is an architect, I did some architecture, and I know construction, I knew that there was a big need for an architect. And we asked Sam if we can organize a few trips and meet with people we know that will understand what we want, architects, and pick an architect. So we prepared the document for several architects. We sent documents to Spain, to Beirut, to the US, and we did a few trips together, all three of us, visiting architects and telling them what we're imagining. I was always fond of the architect Bernard Khoury from Beirut, who did a project called B018, which was very creative. It was a bar in the middle of nowhere. It's called Karantina area. It's an underground bar that opens at night. The whole roof structure opens, and it was very, very well done. Very different from anything I have ever seen. So I wrote to him, sent him the documents, and we never heard back. So, and I knew that Bernard Khoury was very famous in Beirut. I called his office, and I was very shy back then, so I asked, did Bernard receive my document? And the lady who answered said, yes, and he wants to talk to you. And I was like, I was jumping, and I couldn't stop thinking, I'm going to talk to Bernard. He's the architect that I was in love with because of his architecture. And we had a conversation, and he said, I like what you're doing because my thesis at Harvard was about how do you sit in front of a computer. What does it mean? Is it a chair and a table, or does it have to be different? And what you're describing, even though I'm not an interior architect, I love it. And this is what I have been working on for a long time. I never did any project related to something like this, but this is my dream project, and I would like to meet you. So we went to Beirut and we met with him, and then Sam went, and he was, the perfect match. He right away understood what we wanted, and we liked his approach because he was paying a lot of attention to what we were describing and what were the difficulties and how we're imagining common spaces, open spaces, what does it mean to be there, what we would like them, the students, to feel. Does it have to be Armenian interior design, or more something international without any cultural reference, and things like that. And we never had any problem discussing and coming into an agreement together. And since then we have been working with him on all our projects. He has been always surprising us with new ideas and new approaches, and always listening to our concerns and problems as far as running the space and taking that into consideration. So it has been a very nice relationship. And one thing also that was that encouraged him was the first experience here. Because we are architect and engineer, we respected his work a lot. So we never almost changed anything without his permission, without his confirmation, without suggesting alternatives, but intelligent alternatives, not things like change the blue to red, or just for the sake of changing, or none of us, neither Sam nor us, interfered in his decisions. We insisted in some cases, and we came into a conclusion, but this respect was very important between us, because we are from the trade, and we know that you can't just take someone's work and start jeopardizing it, or you have to respect the fact that he's the architect, not you, and not change things, even if you know how to do it. When we met him, he told me, "Did you know that I'm Armenian?" And I said, "Armenian? No." And he said, "My mother is Armenian. She's Simonian. She was one of the first women architects in Beirut. She traveled several times to Armenia, did a whole entire research about Armenian churches and architecture. She used to bring back all these material from Armenia and tell me, because I'm an architect too, tell me all about architecture in Armenia, and I never related to it, and I never felt, not felt anything, but didn't connect, especially that he doesn't speak Armenian." So he said, "I was always looking forward for something to connect me to Armenia." And when he visited Armenia, and he has been visiting it for several times, you can feel his passion. He's very attached. He did everything to make the projects amazing here, even gave us big discounts. So, and we had, as I said, we had a very good relationship. I told you that we imagined and we did the project virtual, but because we were architect and engineer, when we thought about the space, now that it's a physical space, for us it was very important to think about what the students are going to do in the space before designing the space. So the document that we created was about how to use the space, not what we want it to look like. And that was very important. We thought about the content and the usage and the different spaces. For example, these walls that are, they have half glass. It's not aesthetic. For us, one of the requirements was to have a lot of transparency, because what we have seen in the Soviet Union was or spaces that were built during the Soviet Union was this: everything is closed, everything is behind doors, everything is secret. There is no transparency. That was something that bothered us a lot. We want teamwork, we want transparency, we want kids to come from different social backgrounds to learn from each other. We want the staff, while working, be able to see other people. So that was something very important, and a lot of flexibility. Again, because we have so many ideas and we know ourselves that we will have content and we will keep adding content. So we know that we don't want to build things that are cast in stone. We want flexibility. So we told Bernard, everything has to move. So our tables, our chairs, our connections are all flexible. We move around things, we change things, because we know that we are the type of people that will not define something and keep it that way forever. We'll keep adding and changing and using it differently. So we we knew that it was very important to work with an architect who understands what is changing things and moving around and not having things set in place forever. So those are the things, because of all our previous background, combining all that information and knowledge brought us here. Not one thing. It's everything together that made us get to this point. Sometimes when people come and ask us, how do you build something like this? I always say, it's like when you want to build your house, you have two things. One is you either ask your architect to make a proposal to you and design something and you like it or not, or you can describe the atmosphere you want and what is important for you. Do you spend more time in your bedroom or your living room or your backyard or your terrace? Do you want a lot of glass and you want a view, or you don't care, or do you want sunlight, or you want a big bathroom or the minimum necessary? Those are things that depend on your style of lifestyle or living. How do you like to live? And that's the same thing exactly when you imagine for students. Students are here not for the 2 hours. They have to come back. You need to create a space where they will feel very comfortable, and they will feel that this is their space and it's built for them, not for decoration.
So what you just described sounds very serendipitous and like there's a lot of synchronicity involved. And I just want to clarify that Sam was envisioning an educational space for young people and happened to hear about you and your husband as you were on the other end of the equation, thinking about a physical space for what happened virtual. So the two of you each were envisioning the same thing at the same time.
Yes, it did, exactly. He started building the building, and this was supposed to be a set of 5 buildings, but the first one had a space for young people. But he was searching for what it's going to be exactly. He had an idea that it's going to be a technology center for young people. He wanted it to be big. He wanted to include everyone and have it as a resource center, but he didn't have exactly the vision, the exact vision, or the picture. And when we sent him the document, he told us, "Can you come to Dallas next week? I want to meet you." And we went and we had a very long conversation, and it clicked there too. It was like 2 souls finding each other between the 3 of us. it all made sense. He was thinking about the same thing as we were thinking, and of course he had ideas that we didn't have, we had ideas that he didn't have, and it was just complementing each other. And when then we started doing the tour of the architects, it started becoming clearer and clearer about what we're looking for. And when we met with Bernard, he was not there. He then met him and he said, "You're right, that's it. He's the one." So as you said, yes, it was meant, I guess.
It seems there's an emphasis on students being motivated and having some sense of what they're interested in and what areas they want to pursue. And so my question to you is, was that intentional, and is there a belief that you have about the importance of knowing yourself and knowing what you want? I mean, clearly when you spoke about your upbringing, you had quite a bit of motivation, quite a bit of self-direction. So I'd love to hear your thoughts on whether there was a strategic decision that you wanted to create an environment where the students engaged in self-directed studies, and just what that means to you personally.
Yes, exactly. Like I told you very quickly my life story. My husband and I, when we met, we were 16, and he was, from day one, we were always trying to discover things and finding ways to do things in a situation during the Lebanese war where we were very limited. So we had this urge of, we knew that we can do much more and we were limited, so we kept complementing each other and helping each other to see how we can be very creative. We kept, instead of, I don't know, maybe it will sound strange, instead of going to parties or doing things like every young couple will do, we used to work on things together, do projects together to create things. So that continued when we went to US, and that was a big plus because in New York and in Boston, you have everything available. Everything is in front of you. It's now up to you to how to use this information and how to take advantage of what's offered to you. You can either opt to do nothing, or you can take advantage and do more and more. So he went for his studies in architecture. He got accepted at MIT, as I said, but then the second year he told me, first year even, he told me that he would love to go and do his second master's in computer science. And while he was doing that, I stayed in New York because it was my first job and it was a construction job and it was a lot of experience that I was gaining. But I was alone at night, so I decided to do my master's, which gave me the opportunity to go to university in the US, and that was another plus where in Lebanon you're very limited in, there are good studies, but you're limited in resources, and there you have all kind of everything available. And I was, I was absorbing everything, and him too. So from there to Barcelona, where it was a completely different environment, but design-wise, family, meaning, going in depth in everything you do was the opportunity there. We were surrounded with very good friends. The best of Barcelona, we had access to it, so that enriched us a lot. So when we came to Armenia, we wanted to give that to our kids and to the kids of Armenia. And how do you do it if you don't have Barcelona and New York and Boston in Armenia? So we thought that by creating environments here and exposing them to opportunities and showing them the beauty of everything, we will be able to attract and encourage them. So the idea first started, for example, from bringing workshop leaders from abroad. A lot of people told us, why do you have to bring people from abroad, spend that money and hire people here? Slowly they will learn and they will be, you will benefit those people better. We were always against that idea because our intention is not to give jobs to 10, 15, 20 people. Our idea is to make this educational process and experience the best of it. And how do you do it? Like in our lives, we had exposure to all this and we have opportunity and resources. How can we repeat that here in Armenia and bring the best and offer the best and then see what will happen with that? How can we encourage kids here to open up, to embrace those ideas, to learn from those experiences and to develop their creativity? So that was very, very important for us. It's not a matter of how many Armenians we are hiring here, it's a matter of what kind of educational process we're creating here. It's not a matter of equipment only, it's a matter of professional approach, a lot of ethics that these people are bringing with them, a lot of ideas that they're bringing with them, a lot of work environments that they're creating that, could benefit big time, like we benefited from our past experiences. So we keep doing things, probably everybody does that, whatever you have done in your life and what you thought is right. But always, of course, discussing it and making sense and finding what worked and what didn't work and how can we duplicate it. But of course, you can't just duplicate that. As I said, I can't bring Barcelona here, but I can bring people from Barcelona that could transfer that knowledge and that spirit and slowly influence influence the mentality and the knowledge.
I understand games and fun are an important part of TUMO's approach. And I'm wondering if you can tell me, based on your own experience, was there a particular learning experience that made you realize the value of fun and enjoyment as part of an education? And just speak to that.
When we moved to Barcelona, and I told you that we had a few years of me being a housewife, we had the kids in 4 years, three boys in 4 years. So every time we were having one more kid, we had one of them go to a daycare center so I can take care of, I was by myself, I can take care of the baby. But for us it was very important because it was our first son, the first one that we were going to take him to a daycare center. It was very important for us to understand where we're sending him to. And we really spent time going through different daycare centers, and we were very lucky to realize that in Barcelona they paid a lot of attention to education, and especially very early education. We came across a very nice daycare center where that was actually maybe it was my first exposure to education and how important it is and how you can pay a lot of attention to what you're doing, even though they're very young. So that daycare center was built in an old house, very comfortable. You had the feeling that you're going to, it's your house. Cooking, they had separate meals, even preparing the dishes for these little kids was something taken very seriously, from a menu that was sent at home describing how it was done, to a little booklet that the teacher used to write notes about your kid every day, every single day. At the end you had a book of everything that happened to your son, with not that he ate well or things that he did that was striking, that was important. There was a end of school not reunion, the not concert, but the hunters, how do you say it? The celebration for the end of the year. And instead of doing the regular, the kids are dancing or singing or saying something or doing a theater piece, the principal there told me that it's the most important day of their school, and it was their day, not the parents' day. And she organized the whole fun day where the kids were having a lot of fun and the parents were participating in that environment. So another day, two more experiences. One day it was like they were 3-year-old, 2-year-old, 4-year-old. One day I went to pick my son up, and I saw that she had organized a small flute concert, and she brought someone to play flute and music to them, and they were all sitting on the floor and enjoying that moment. I realized that it was so important to create an environment and to think about what the kids want instead of what you want, and how you want the whole thing to look at the end. And the central part is the student or the kid. Most important part. Nothing else is more important than them. From their bathroom to their backyard, the playground, to the music, to the all the freedom they used to give to these kids. So that I started asking the principal if I can spend more time at the daycare center, and I started liking all this more and more, and how the space and the mentality could affect your educational process, and how it can enrich it. So those things in Spain opened our eyes, and I can say that that was the most important part, where even though you can have a good content, but everything else you're building around it, from the teachers to the parents to the relationship to what at the end of the day what the kids are getting and how they're spending their time, was very important. Mm-hmm. When we met with Sam, something that we both agreed upon was we kept thinking, what should be this space? It should include everyone, and it should include different type of people. From girl to boy, from age 12 to 18, from wealthy to non-wealthy. It was important that for us, it was not about intimidating them and making sure that, and that Bernard helped us realizing, it's not about the decoration, it's not about the space, how you enrich the space, it's about them. And they have to feel very comfortable, and they have to feel very free, being able to move, being able to focus. It's not paintings on the wall, it's not, those are not important, and we don't have them. Even no colors, black and white, so that it ages well, and it doesn't become boring after a while. We could have done it very colorful, but we kept thinking about it. We even did a lot of examples of interiors with colors, with the same wall but colored. But we realized that it could become boring after a while. While the black and white is not imposing anything on you. It's as if it doesn't exist, and you're the one. And I remember the words Bernard said, the student is the most important, and the screen where he's working and what he's doing is the most important thing, nothing else. So that was very important. We kept trying to be loyal to that idea of freedom, a space where you can come over and over and over and not get tired. I have been here for 12 years. I'm not tired of this space, of the architecture, because it doesn't make me think one way, or it doesn't impose any idea or any feeling on me. It let me be free. And the fact that it's high ceiling is very nice. So we keep insisting, even though now in some cases we don't have it, but the Gyumri TUMO, for example, the temporary TUMO, no matter what you do with it, it's limited because of the height, because of the shape. So we're moving now to the theater because we want to breathe. We want to have that freedom, and we want kids to feel that it's not temporary. It's their space, and they can stay here as long as they want, and it's part of their lives. And it's not like a project that started, ended, and it's temporary. It's not temporary. They can rely on this as long as they want to, and they want to stay. So those things, we have kept discussing it, and of course during the design we kept reviewing it and making sure that we are loyal to the ideas that are very important for us, which freedom, different mentalities. That's why we didn't want to put anything culturally Armenian in the space. A lot of people told us if you go to their houses, they're very different from this space. Don't you think that will clash? We said no, we want them, when they enter TUMO, we want them to have complete freedom and unlimited access to everything they can imagine, and not limit them with what they had, and this is what you have, and you have to stay and be confined in this. You're Armenian, you have carpet on the floor, Armenian carpet, Armenian painting, this is how the house should be, and these are your limitations. We wanted to break that and open and give them all the freedom to do whatever they want and not impose something on them. So by putting a carpet or a design that looks like a carpet, we're already imposing and telling them, you should think this way. We don't want to do that. We don't want to tell them how to think. Amazing result doesn't mean that it's very attractive as far as aesthetics. It is meaningful. It has a meaning. For example, there is one workshop we did in robotics. For us, it's an amazing result because it was you were supposed to build a structure that had several motors and combine those motors and find a solution to make those motors talk to each other, and while they're moving, and after a while when the movement starts not being synchronized, telling each other and readapting and making sure that slowly there is not incremental changes in the synchronization. So the fact that the students looked at the project from physics and math point of view and understood what was happening and find a solution to make those motors talk to each other and solve the problem was amazing. And when someone presents you the project and shows you, look, we built this and it's moving, okay, it's moving. We have seen other things moving, and you don't realize what was behind all that. But then we did a small video where the students are explaining how they were able to find the solution and solve the problem. That's what is amazing. It's what went through the project and how you found the solution and how it makes sense and what they learned throughout the process that is amazing, not the movement itself. So it's very difficult to show amazing results because people expect, when you say amazing results, people expect something aesthetically nice. That's amazing results maybe, or very nice drawing or very nice movie, but not the process or how they were able to solve the problem. For us, at least for me, amazing results is the process. It's what they learned, where they started from and what they were capable of doing. That's amazing result. And not really at the end, did it look nice or not. It's very important to respect them and give them opportunities that are similar to real life. So it all started, and we keep insisting that we want to create these opportunities to a lot of groups, but also at the same time make sure that we're not somehow cheating because they're kids, allowing them to, for example, forget deadlines, to forget how to manage their team, how to manage their timetable, what it means to come every day to work. Those things are very important at the same time. The discipline is very important as much as the fact that we want to give them resources and we want to expose them and give them real life experiences in building their startups. Maybe they're not going to be the real startups at the end, but the experience they're gaining through this process is very important. Because Armenians, maybe all teenagers, they are very excited with the idea, and then once they pass the stage where they have to work a lot, it's not interesting anymore. Of course, us too, right? The idea is the most exciting part, and then when you have to do the real stuff and spend hours and hours and hours to build something, you realize that it's not as exciting as the idea. So we have started with some groups here, but we're now moving to another level from 18 up to 28. We're working with the European Union to build an environment where we're going to work on projects that are driven by the market or companies, build all the necessary curriculum just in time for those projects, have a big chunk of people participating in those pre-courses, be exposed to those courses for certain projects, and then select from those students the ones that could fit in the team that is needed to build the project, and to take the project from A to Z to make it happen. With the same mentality as TUMO, bringing teachers, not full-time teachers, bringing teachers from the US or from all over the world to guide and run the project, complemented with local workforce, but make sure that people are going through the whole process, from marketing to planning to resource management to funds to testing, and not only ideas. Because not only Armenia, everybody has ideas, right? And everybody wants to create something that could be the next Facebook or I don't know what. And everybody is always thinking, what if I build something that will then, why? I don't know which project made so much money, I could have done the same thing, why not me? Right? And there are a lot of people, including us, everybody, who has a lot of ideas. But that's one part of it. The real part is to have experience in making judgment, in planning, in fine-tuning, in bringing the project to its end with the resources you have, having guidance. So our plan is to work with university students and bring that in like an internship, having them work on project like this, having them work in teamwork, not one person, not two person, and not forever, with limited resources and limited time schedule, and see how this project can lead to very successful ideas and very successful startups. I don't know if I can define creativity, but every time I do something, the thing that I like the most is how I feel. I feel happy. I feel if for example, now we're doing a workshop at TUMO Studios with concrete jewelry. And yesterday Maral sent me pictures of the first attempts, and it's like, for me, I'm so happy. I was pushing her to find a workshop leader that does concrete jewelry, because I'm in construction and I love concrete and I love those materials and I love touching them, and then those become part of your life as jewelry pieces. It's even more rewarding. It's like, wow, the thing I like is now part also of my other life, my daily life. Not only I can use it in construction, but I can enjoy it, having it as a ring or a necklace. That's when I'm very happy. And I love finding out what people do when they discover things like that, and they use them, and it makes more sense, and it brings things together. It makes sense. It brings things together. It enriches your life. So I love those things, and I don't know how to I don't know how to describe creativity. I don't know how to say that person is not creative or another person is creative. I think it's opportunities when you have, for example, when we were doing a photography workshop, you organize photography workshop, and the most important is how to use a camera, how to focus the camera, how to edit the pictures. But what about what you see through your camera? What about how that is impacting your life, and what meaning you're seeing in those pictures. It's not the portrait only that are important. For example, we organized the food photography workshop, and we didn't want to take them to restaurants and have the students just take pictures of nice plates. We wanted them to go to farms, we wanted them to go to families, we wanted them to go to the market, we wanted them to take the train to Dumri to see how people are selling their fruits on the train or transporting their fruits. So through the camera, you're discovering a whole, another way to see what's surrounding you. You're suddenly starting to see things. And every time we have a photography workshop leader coming, I sit down and I try to explain, and they usually get it, and they're agreeing and they do it, to teach students to see things. When you start seeing things, you become creative. It's not, we cannot teach creativity, but we can teach them to see things, to see the material, to see the landscape, to see the sidewalk, to see the buildings, how they're next to each other, to see big picture, small picture, detail, people, nature, to see how things are built and what's bothering you. When you're editing a picture, you start seeing things that are bothering you and start paying attention to your surrounding and seeing what's wrong. We took students to many photography workshops outside TUMO, and I was struck by the fact that they had never visited those spaces, never went to those spaces, never took field trips or with their parents or by themselves. Maybe it's the fact that my husband and I, since we had the kids and we wanted to have more kids and more expose them to things like this, like even in LA, we used to organize the birthday of our son in Chinatown. Like Armenians, we realized that none of the friends of my son had been to Chinatown in LA. Never. Never took the metro in LA. They take the car, they go by car, they go to the mall, whatever, but never took the train to go to Chinatown. When we were raising them there, we were always trying to discover things, how to teach them to see things. We went to places where, sometimes even dangerous places, to discover abandoned structures, landscapes, things, always exposing them to this. And once you expose them, then you let them create themselves. You don't tell them how to create. You just expose them, and the exposure is very important.
TUMO, as I understand it, will be opening a school in Paris this fall. Can you share with me what it feels like to be taking something that you've been involved in since its inception and bringing it outside of Armenia and to Paris, of all places?
Yes, it's beautiful and very encouraging, but at the same time it's scary, because Paris is the place where you have everything. So will we be able to offer them things that we offer here, and we know how to offer it, and we want them to understand it? Because when you have everything, it's very difficult to see the beauty of what is important or what you're offering. But in this case, I think if we kids are kids, no matter what. And if you respect them, and if you put the maximum in the way you have built and created the content, and you do it intelligently, and you don't underestimate them, just saying they're kids, then you get back the respect. And I believe that we will be able, it will take probably, again, it will take time to adapt, and maybe we'll have to change a few things, discovering a few things that we don't know about France. But at the end of the day, when you work with teenagers and you give them something intelligent and something profound, I remember Seymour Papert from MIT came once here, and we were under construction. And when I was telling him this is not a school, he said, "Do not say that. This is the future school. This is how schools have to be, even in the US. This is what students should have. The opportunity to discover, the opportunity to be free, to select, to not be afraid of trying things, not compare each other, not have grades. All those things are things that are very, very important in education. Maybe you're doing it intuitively, but this is the right way, and don't listen to anyone and do it." I remember his words. So I believe that will apply for Paris too. Yes, it's intimidating for us. It's Paris. We're afraid, but that, you know, are French people or French kids different than Armenian kids? But I do not think so, because I think teenagers are teenagers, and they want the best, and they want us to respect them, and they want us to consider them as human beings, adults, not kids that do not understand or do not have taste or do not have opinion. The more you respect them, the better you communicate with them, and the better you help in their development, instead of fighting it.